Time for another edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast. With you, as always, David Lesky from Inside the Crown, former Kansas City Royals outfielder and host of Breaking the Norm. Les Norman is with you. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHP. What do the Royals need to get done this offseason? We're giving our top five things that each of us believe that the Royals have to get done this offseason, whether that's, I'm sure, a bat to fill out this lineup going to be there. Somebody got to be traded. Are there some things off the field that need to be done? We're talking about that right here, right now, on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you, Curtis. We appreciate it. Off and running here. We're going to go through our top five things that we think the Royals need to accomplish in this offseason. Anything was on the table. You literally could go with anything. It could be better snacks, right? Fresher popcorn, whatever it is you think this organization needs to do. Literally everything was on the table. We're going to give our tops. We're going to go top to bottom. And if we duplicate, which I'm sure we will, I'm sure out of this five, we'll have somewhere between 6 and 9 different topics here. But we'll go through our top one. If somebody else has it on their list, we'll go ahead and have our conversation at that point. So you're going to get each of our lists, but in the order of the most important based upon any of us having it as the top on the list. Unless we'll start with you. What is number one on your list of to-dos for the Kansas City Royals?
This is probably going to come as no surprise, but to get and acquire a corner outfielder, definitely. And I put this in there because I have suffered through as a former corner outfielder that was not the answer due to injuries, but I've just seen it over and over again. The experiments that don't work are the free agents that leave. And so I feel like that's the big number one.
Yeah, outfielder is a big one. David, as you got an outfielder on your list? Because I've got – it's number 4 on my list. I listed it as acquire a legit outfield bat.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my number one's acquire a middle of the order bat, which is
okay.
It doesn't have to be an outfielder. They need an outfielder regardless.
Where would it be if it wasn't? That's interesting. How would you envision it not being an outfielder?
Second baseman. I mean, I guess that there's a way that it could be a third base. Again, this goes back to the Garcia conversation we had a couple weeks ago. You could get a third baseman. You could sign Suarez or something and move Garcia to second. I don't like that. So I wouldn't do that. But I could, like, the second baseman that I look at, Ketel Marte, Brandon Lau. Is he the Lau or is he the Low? I can never remember which one. I think he's the Lau. Whichever. They had 3 LOWEs and 2 were Lau and 1 was Low. Anyway,
they're all a name on a screen to me. So
that's fair. Brandon LOWE.
I do think it's Lau.
There you go.
He's the Lau. Okay, I always get that mixed up. But I mean, most of them are outfield bats. Most of the guys that they could acquire are out. There's only because it's. Gleyber Torres is not a middle of the order bat. You know, they could sign him, but he's not. Jorge Polanco, they could sign him, but I struggle with that. I think I think a team that signs Polanco is going to be very disappointed in year 3 of that deal. But yeah, so mine's a middle of the order bat that's most likely an outfielder because I think that's just where it fits the best. And there's a good chunk out there. So yeah, there's
Yeah,
they should get it.
Yeah, I my little subheadings. I had to acquire a legitimate outfield bat, most likely trading an SP, right? Trading a starting pitcher. I think is what it's going to take to do it, more so than just signing a free agent, right? I don't think you're going to win the Tyler O'Neill sweepstakes. I don't think you're going to win the Cody Bellinger sweepstakes. Or not Tyler O'Neill, Cubs, Tucker. I don't think you're going to win those sweepstakes. So to me, the chance to get the best possible bat is going to become through trade. So I think most likely it's going to be trade. I put acquire, but I think it's going to end up being trade when it's all said and done. And how do any of these names, like this is the order of acquisition targets for me. Steven Kwan, not going to happen because they're not going to trade in division. But I would, if I'm the Royals, if I'm a math-oriented team, which Cleveland is and the Royals have become, you don't worry about where the other parts are going. You just make yourself better. And I think that will be the future of trading in all sports. This like taboo of helping your rival will go away because you're going to get fired if you don't make your club better anyway. And so if making your club better is doing a deal with somebody in your division, you do it. And if they would make Steven Kwan, because they're always cheap and seemingly always moving people off, and lead off, done. There he is. Outfield, lead off, we're there. So
great defender too.
Yeah, great defender. So Steven Kwan's number one.
Good base runner.
Base runner, yes, all of it. Jaron Duran is next for me, just because I think of what the price will be and what it'll be. I'll take it. How about this one? Lob a grenade. O'Neill Cruz is number 3, 27-year-old.
Interesting.
What would you say? A volcanic disaster. It's a volcano that's going to erupt, either with incredible talent or as an unbelievable disaster. Right? He's number 3, and number 4 is Taylor Ward, who we've talked about for 2 years, right? Like coming to the Royals. So I threw some names down just to give you something to chew on, but I wanted to find a way to have, kind of a scouty move, because I do think the Royals are analytically driven, but I think there's analytics in going for O'Neill Cruz right now. It is the ultimate buy low, right? He didn't play that great defensively in center field, but he's already a 2020 guy with at 6'7", clearly 30+ homer power, but is athletic, can run the bases to something that we heard them say in the press conference about doing a better job on the bases. So to me, he's just kind of like a, it's kind of all right. Let's take a shot. If you gave 1 year of Chris Bubich control for O'Neill Cruz, and you could fix O'Neill Cruz. And that's, by the way, a trade that the Pirates would never do, because they would never take back a player with 1 year. It'd be more like Noah Cameron, right? For O'Neill Cruz, and because of the season he had. I could see that being, and I assume we're all going to get to talking about a hitting coach at some point. If you've got your Brian Sweeney of hitting, then making moves for guys that have been, a problem someplace else, counting on them to figure it out with you, to me, becomes smart business.
Man, that's such an interesting name, because the season he had in 25 was brutal. That obviously flashes, but look what he did in 24: 259, 324, 449. But I mean, I'm looking at the percentiles right now on Baseball Savant. Hard hit rate 97th percentile, barrel rate 97th percentile, average exit velocity 99th percentile. He doesn't have to be the star in Kansas City.
Right.
That's interesting. He's the future in Pittsburgh on the offensive side. Bobby Witt's got that. That's really, I kind of discounted him because he's so bad defensively in center, but maybe he's not so bad in left.
Right. And
right.
maybe that unlocks the offensive potential. I don't think it'll happen. And it's number 3 because I think it's such a needle to thread, because they're not giving him up like he's damaged goods. They're going to give him up like a guy who had an off season. So you're going to have to pay a legitimate price. And if you're JJ Piccolo talking about, getting on base and defense and doing all the little things, this guy is not that. Like, it's entirely possible that anybody from the Royals front office is listening to this right now. They're laughing their ass off, going, that is the dumbest thing. We will never, ever, like, that guy's lost. He can't be fixed. He's not what we want. But I would be intrigued by a guy that has that kind of talent. And
But
if you're
that's
buying
their
low,
job to say he's lost,
yes,
not yours.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm floating the idea. You Les and the guys that know things about swings and hitting, you guys figure out whether or not it can be saved. So yeah, I was like reading through names and people and trade stuff and everything, and I'm like, really? O'Neal Cruz? I'm like, wow.
Let me just add with O'Neal Cruz. If I feel like if the hitting situation as far as the coaching staff in Kansas City were a little bit put me at ease a little bit more, I would join that O'Neal conversation in a heartbeat. The issue is that, you know, if that did happen and he comes in town and it's not established and he has another bad career or bad career year, then O'Neal Cruz becomes another thing that some guys like me complain about, that yet another trade or free agent outfielder that didn't work. But I feel like it wouldn't necessarily be 100% his fault. Now, look, the hitters have to swing the bat. They have to do the work. But again, when you have a guy with such upside and talent that struggles, sometimes the right hitting coach is the guy that can really turn things around. And I don't feel like in Kansas City right now that Zumwalt is that guy, or the situation is the right situation for a guy like him. I would rather have someone like Jaron Duran, who I continue to like beg, please sign this guy. I've loved him since he figured things out in the big leagues. So yeah, I'm not negative O'Neal because they won't do it, O'Neal Cruz. It's not going to happen because of the hitting situation.
And I think you're dead on. You're dead on. Is that number 2 on your list?
For, you mean the hitting?
Yeah, or you know,
it should have been higher. I put it down lower. I had it at 4, but I probably should have had it at 2. So I'm going to cheat right now and switch that.
I heard the passion. I'm like, that sounds to me like that's next for you.
I convinced myself. Yeah, that's number 2, to get another qualified guy to come in. And here's the deal. We understand that Zumwalt's the head guy and bring another qualified guy in, but I'm really going to be careful on my search. And I know they don't have a ton of. I'm going to be careful on my search, because if it doesn't work out again, maybe the guy that they need to hire is somebody that in-house could replace Zumwalt. And again, I'll keep saying it. I'm not about a guy losing his job. He's an organizational guy. You could reassign Zumwalt, and that would be fantastic. I don't think you just fire a guy and just dump him off on the curb, but hire somebody that could maybe jointly work, or yes, Zumwalt's the guy, but man, it would be a great partnership to work together. I know there's egos involved, and it depends on the right philosophy of a guy coming in. But and by the way, not just the free agent thing, but we need somebody that can really help fix Jack, because Jack was still really long. Jack has struggled so far. Forget about the power and home runs. We're past the awe factor now. He needs to learn how to hit big league pitching and hasn't yet. Flashes of brilliance, maybe, but they're small. So this hitting guy coming in needs to be a guy that could replace, a guy that could help a trade or free agent guy come in that needs fixed, that another club's willing to do, and a guy that can fix Jack. So this is a really important thing.
David, this is high on your list as well.
Yeah, number two on my list. And you know, it's a little bit easier, in my opinion, to target pitching coaches, because you kind of see what organizations do. And it's the same thing I've said before. I think a pitching coach has more impact in the moment, because the pitcher initiates the action, the hitter responds to the action. So a coach can't necessarily say, okay, when he throws a sinker here, you have to do this, because you don't know that he's going to throw a sinker there. So it's a little bit more difficult, I think. But in my opinion, I'm looking to the successful organizations. Who does it well? Look at the Tigers. Look at the Tigers minor league hitters. They have 2 of the top. I don't know where Max Clark. I know that McGonigal is number 1 or 2 on most lists. Max Clark is in the top 10, I believe. They got 2 top 10 prospects.
But Max Clark was also a top number 2.
Yeah, he was. You're right. I mean, but he's clear. He's still progressing. He's still doing things. And Dylan Dingler has turned it around. Has become a legitimate big league hitter. They've fixed Spencer Torkelson in some ways. They've churned out Riley Green, who's been really good. And there are some holes in what the Tigers do for sure. But I'm looking at the Tigers. I look at Kenny Graham, who is their director of hitting in the minor leagues. And, okay, well, this organization is hitting in the minors. And the Royals do too, to some extent. So I don't want to put too much emphasis on it. But again, the successful organizations, the ones that are getting guys to the big leagues, and those guys are succeeding. And And I think he's an interesting name. I go to the Blue Jays. Craig Perry is the Blue Jays hitting instructor or coordinator. Lou Iannotti is one of their assistant coaches. Go to Connor Dawson with the Brewers. You look at guys who tend to get more out of less, and organizations maybe that tend to get more out of less, and pick their best.
Nobody gets more out of less than we do here on the Kaufman Corner.
That's
podcast. First of all, let me be clear about that.
I actually think we're the opposite. I think we get less out of more. But we're working on it. We're getting there. But to me, that's where they need to look. And to be fair, they did that with the last group. I mean, they went a lot of guys were from the Dodgers. They really did. But at the same time, look at the Dodgers. They're kind of struggling to develop hitters now. I mean, there's a reason they're going to be hard after Kyle Tucker. And maybe it's because the Royals stole their guys. I don't know, but I just think it's always smart practice to go to the organizations that are doing it well and just take the guys that are doing it for them.
Yeah, that's they have to get it right. I mean, I have it number 2 on my list as well, so we all have them at number 2. I put fix the hitting coach, recreate what you have on the pitching side. Like I would listen to Les on who and where and what the mechanics need to be, and I think it does go beyond that. I was really surprised when I think it was 2 years ago at spring training, I had Alex Zumwalt on, and I asked him how much, he works with the minor league coaches, not players, as in here's what we're looking for. And he said like none at all. Or not much. I don't want to, it's been 2 years or a year and a half since I had that conversation. So I don't want to overstate what it was, but it was like that there wasn't this connection between here's how we want to do it up here. And so let's start them doing that down here. And so, I might even expand this to fix the hitting philosophy, right? Like, and maybe he didn't understand the question and I'm reading way too much into it and there is a symmetry to it. But I do think, to your point, David, I think you make a great point there that this needs to be something that is identifiable traits, right, that they're looking for with the hitters, brought into the system and then instructed all the way up. And then when they get to the big leagues, it's not like, swing decision is important. Okay, right? Like they need to be trying to find those guys out of the gates, and so that there is a philosophy that is connected all the way up. Les, I mean, was that how it was when you came up? Was there an approach, or was it every stop you got a new little nugget from a different hitting coach that came at it from a different perspective?
It was the second thing. I mean, I think I had mentioned it was a few episodes back. Maybe it's been a long time, but Greg Luzinski was our hitting coach, and there were guys that he was good with because it was the style. But guys like me, I was not Greg Luzinski that could just put one in the seats, So for me, it was the second thing that you said about, I took little pieces here and there. I was blessed to have Tom Poquette as my first short season, just got drafted guy who taught me how to hit with a wood bat because I had messed around in Pony League a little bit. That's not going to qualify. And then as you go along, you have different guys here or there. One of the guys that helped me the most was just my 1 year in the Rangers organization. It was Rudy Jaramillo, who talked more about timing. I was so fundamentals and, use your hands, bottom hand, rotation, strength, all these things. But he helped me understand the point of, if you don't have good timing, none of the good things that you do even matter because you're going to be late. You're going to try to correct and roll over, and you're going to undo the good things and create bad things. And so that really unlocked something for me as well. And so you can have philosophy, but you have to be a good enough hitting coach to understand that of your 15 guys, of your 15 positional players or 17 or whatever you have, they all hit differently. And if you don't understand how they think, how they swing, what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their ego is and is not, their ability to hit behind runners, their willingness to hit behind runners, you have to be able to be hitting coach, psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, all those things wrapped into one. And so I think you got to be really careful with, this is the Royals philosophy. This is what we're going to do, because then you limit yourself to those type of players. And sometimes those players can't help you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I know how complicated hitting is, right? And the Royals know, and every big league club knows. And that's why it's so important for them to get it right with the coaches. And, we may look back on it and we all go, number one was hitting coaches. And it wasn't even close. Like I wouldn't be shocked if we were like, okay, what did we get wrong? Well, we didn't put the hitting coach because that was it. Like if they get it right, we will look back and say, look at everything that it's made better, just like we look at the pitching and how they seem to be able to acquire anybody and make them better. I mean, if you can do that, it takes a lot of pressure off everything else in your organization. I want to get to the rest of our list. We are at number 3 on the list. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Frontier Justice.
This episode of Kaufman Corner is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee's Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
Your favorites are back, Kansas City, now for a limited time at all your Kansas City Whataburger locations. The Bacon Wrangler Double, 2 large beef patties, American Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, fried onion strings, pickles, and chipotle aioli sauce. Or how about the sweet and spicy bacon burger? 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt or even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger Dr. Pepper Blackberry Shake. Remember, Whataburger is open 24 hours a day with breakfast served from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. All right, we're ready for number 3 on our list. We're counting down the top 5 things the Royals need to do this offseason. Literally anything is on the table. Les, number 3 for you. Where do we go?
Number 3 is improve the middle relief of the bullpen.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm really anxious to hear what you guys think about this, but I feel like Angel Zerpa could be an all-star pitcher. I mean, I really do. I mean, not just because the guy throws 97, but I feel like if he could get a little more movement, maybe add a pitch, really focus on location more, because I think sometimes he gets in this mode where he just goes up and throws and he's over the middle of the plate. And I know that sometimes that's difficult to teach, but I just feel like the way he throws, he just slings it effortlessly. And if he could just focus a little more on location and develop a little bit better off speed, I think him and Daniel Lynch are actually good left-handed pieces to the bullpen. I think that there needs to be a little bit of maybe there's some right-handed guys that are out there that are affordable, I feel like. I was looking at Sean Armstrong, Phil, how do you say, Maton, I think you say his name. There's Tyler Rogers is the guy that's out there. I mean, there's guys out there that are right-handed guys that could do a good job, that are relatively affordable in that market. But I just think that we have gems left-handed. I say that, I'll end the point here. The different things I read, I know that it seems like there's a high percentage of people out there that think, they got to get better lefties. They got to get better lefties. I feel like we've got good lefties. We just need to work on a little bit more development in them.
Okay. All right. I like that. So improve the middle relief is number 3. I would agree. I mean, I think they could use a little bit more depth. I feel like, I did not have that. Let me double check and make sure. I did not have anything there. And I feel like it's kind of a statement of how much confidence I have in their ability to coach the pitching, that I really didn't even think in terms of pitching almost at all. It just never, I was sitting here and I spent, I don't know how long on thinking about it, over the last couple of days. And I'm like, never, it was always about trading pitching, that's what I was thinking about. So I think I like that, Les, because I do think if they're better in that middle relief, they'll be better, all around. All right, David, did you have that? Did you have middle relief anywhere? You didn't, did you?
No, I didn't have middle relief exactly. I had a pitching point that kind of ties together, but
okay.
I think what's interesting about middle relief, It's my number 3, actually.
Okay, go ahead with your middle relief.
I can kind of go through both of them, but I think what's interesting, I agree with your middle relief point, Les. I wonder if if the way to fix it is not to get better middle relievers, but to get better leverage relievers and take the guys who are in leverage now that maybe shouldn't be. Like John Schreiber, I think would be a phenomenal. I'd rather see him in the 6th more often than have him be the guy in the 8th when Urseg is out. So I think some of it is just pushing the roster down a little bit. And so do you go out and this ties into what my number 3, which is get more whiffs. They don't get enough swing and miss, especially in the bullpen. I mean, their bullpen, they finished 7th in baseball in ERA, like percentage points, 10ths of a percentage behind Milwaukee. So 6th or 7th. They were both 3.63. The Brewers were just slightly better. But in K per 9, they were 29th. In strikeout percentage, they were 28th. In swinging strike rate, the bullpen, I'm talking about specifically, the bullpen was 30th. It's out of 30 teams. They need more whiffs. And I think they could use more in the rotation, which I think if Cole Reagans is healthy, that'll come. If Chris Bubich is healthy and on the team, that'll come because they both get the swing and miss. But where the rotation is stuffed, you're not going to get a new starter in all likelihood. So look to the bullpen. And look at the free agency is a little bit easier with relievers because it just is in the offseason. You look at some of the guys who get swinging strikes. Kirby Yates had a tough year with the Dodgers, but he gets swinging strikes. Phil Maton, you mentioned him, gets swinging strikes. I think Devin Williams is a really interesting name. Does he get a cheap deal? Does he try to bounce back? He was a legitimately top 4 closer before this year with the Yankees. Could you do that? Could you look there? I like the idea of giving Hunter Harvey a really incentive-laden deal. I know that you may not see him, but you might. He was so good when he was there. Make it cheap. Ryan Stanek, Rafael Montero, all these guys get swinging strikes. I'm not saying they're all great, and I'm not saying sacrifice production because he gets a whiff occasionally, but I think they need more whiffs. And if you look numbers-wise in chase rate, I talked about this on Inside the Crown this past week. They just don't get much chase. The pitchers, and they throw a lot of strikes, but even with their strike rate, it's still like 40. I can't remember what it was now off the top of my head. They still throw out of the strike zone more than 50% of the time. So if you can get some chase on that, you get weak contact, you get swing and miss. It's huge. So I think they need to get more whiffs, more chase. And I think a lot of that stems in the bullpen. Strikeouts
amongst the World Series teams compared to the Royals. The Dodgers struck out 1,505. The Blue Jays struck out 1,430. The Royals struck out 1,271. Yeah. So they had 200 plus less strikeouts than the Dodgers and about 180 less strikeouts than the Blue Jays. So, I mean, like, why are these teams better? There are lots of things to look at. The money they spent is a big part of it, but what they spent on were guys that get swing and miss, and that comes from chase. Part of that's the chase. Right. So,
take it even farther. Here, the playoff teams ranked in strikeouts, just pure counting stat. Dodgers 1, Phillies 3, Yankees 4, Brewers 5, Blue Jays 6, Mariners 7, Padres 8, then a few, Cleveland 12, Cincinnati 13, Detroit 14, Boston 16. I'm literally just going down the list right now. The Cubs were the only playoff team worse than the Royals, and they were also the only playoff team in the bottom 14.
Yeah.
You got to strike guys out.
Yeah, it's important. All right, number 3 on my list is extending Salvador Perez. And that's the heading. The point of it is not to, just give him whatever he wants. The point of it is not to, we can't live without Salvi. The point of it is, I think you want Salvi. I think he's good for the team. I think his, personality and everything, and he's a career Royal. And I think there's something I think Salvador Perez is an advertisement to other players that if you come to this team and you play well, you can play your whole career here. You get comfortable in the city. You can get comfortable in the city because you can be a career Royal, right? I don't think it's going to be often. I don't think Bobby Witt Jr. finishes his career in a Royals uniform. I think if he plays as well as we all think, they're going to have to trade him. I don't think but this is a situation where you can hold up a guy who I think has got a real good shot for the Hall of Fame. and he could finish his career here. Plus, he's so good in bridging the gap between the Latin and English side of the clubhouse. There's so many intangibles that come with him. But the point of the extension is to give him multiple years, to make him happy, and to get him to understand and agree that he's not catching 130 games anymore, that he's not DHing 50 games. And first base said, Salvi, you're going to be in, you're going to catch and maybe not even catch the most games. You know, I'm thinking in terms of 100 games for Salvi. You know, I'm thinking in terms of 70 behind the dish and 30 at DH and first base. And we're going to pay you and we're going to guarantee you money for multiple years. But part of what we're paying you for is for you to be on board with this. I can't have you in Matt Quattro's office every day going, why isn't my name in the lineup? I need you to lead when you're not in the lineup. I need you to be the Salvi we always love, and you're still going to play a big role, but we think you'll be better with less time. And I might even slide in there a weight clause, you know, for some incentives, because I don't think Salvi needs to get any bigger. But I think it's about keeping all the good things of Salvi, but I'd be willing to pay $1 million or $2 million to get him to buy into how we want to use Salvi. What does Daniel Mack and his staff tell us is the right way to use him? How often should he be used? When does he wear out? When does he tire out? And I'm extending him to keep it all the good things, but to also get him to buy into how we're going to use him moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And what I would add is that I would have this conversation with him, and he may not like it. I mean, who knows? But, you know, the longer Salvi stays in there to catch more and more, you're delaying the development and possibly a season or two of all-star appearances for Carter Jensen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that's where the club needs to go, right, David?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if 100 is the right number. It could be 120, it could be whatever. But we talked about this in season. I think if you play Salvi, whatever the number is, let's say it's 120. I think that for what I'm about to say, that makes more sense. I think he ends up with the same numbers because he's fresh. And I don't think he gets the 30 and 100 at 100 games. Is the only reason I say that. But he probably gets on a per game basis is way better, no matter if he's playing fewer games. I think that makes a lot of sense. I also wonder if there's some payroll magic they can do to. I mean, they're up against it salary wise. I think what they say, oh, we're happy with where we are. Add 10% to the payroll, and that's what they're going to do, because that's what they've done in the past. Even with adding 10%, picking up the $13.5 million puts them pretty. It gives them. Doesn't give them a lot of wiggle room. Maybe they do an extension where this year's $8 million, and now they add $5 million more. So that also, I think, is a big benefit to that. And it's Salvi giving back to the team giving to Salvi, all that. I think it makes a lot of sense. I wrote a couple weeks ago, I'd just pick up his option and call it good. But I totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I want him. I think money makes everybody happy. Like, hey, Salvi, here's something you don't want to hear. I know I'm not doing that. I got to play every day. Okay, but we're not going to give you that year 2 and 3 that we will give you if you will sign off on this. And then you got to know that when Salvador says, okay, it's good, that he isn't like, April 15th going, why am I not in there? Like you got to know the player, right? To make that work.
You frame the contract and you put it in the back of his locker. That's how you do it. and you highlight the section.
I like
you
that.
Can't blame a guy for wanting to play, though. I mean,
no.
Even Salvi, you cannot blame a guy for, even if you do give him those parameters, still coming in your office, still wanting to play.
Yeah, no, that's always a good thing for sure, and that's one of the reasons why you want him around. All right, let's go. We are to number 4. Les, where are you at on number 4?
Yeah, this is, I don't think you guys have this, but this is work the details. And by details, I mean this offseason, spring training, we have to improve on situational hitting and base running. It wasn't very good. It hasn't been good for a while. I remember a few years back, I think during Ned Yost's time, where they would talk about situational hitting a lot. And I haven't heard it really talked a lot about, but boy, you can really see it. And so there are some guys that Vinnie Pasquantino probably shouldn't be just trying to hit a ground ball to second base. He's not a situational hitting guy, but there are guys that are situational hitting guys. And I know that our middle to the back of the lineup has to improve for guys to be able to do that. You have to have legitimate guys that can give you production. But overall, every day I would be having early work in spring training with, okay, these 2-3 guys, we're working base running for 45 minutes. And this group on this field is doing nothing but runner on second, less than 2 outs, get a guy out there that can bend the ball a little bit, throw some change ups. We're going to work on hitting the other way. We're going to work on runner on third, less than 2 outs, infield in. You're going to try to drive the ball into the outfield, line drives through the infield, or fly balls for sac flies in the outfield, over and over and over again. At least I know we didn't win a lot, but during my regime of the short time I had with the Royals in those AAA years in big league camp, they preached it a lot. Whether we were successful or not, we talked a lot about it, and I prided myself on being able to hit behind a runner, bunting if I needed to, drive the ball through the infield. And so I think it's a big deal.
Yeah. I think, listen, we heard Matt Quintero say that. He was wanting the attention to details. And I think it's the one thing, it's like, how is John Rave not able to get a bunt down? Like in there was that little stretch where they were making all these critical mistakes. Like, you need to do the little things. And the little things, they're not going to win you 100 games. But if they take a 4-8 and make it 6-6, like when you're not hitting, if you can scratch for 1 or 2, if they take a 3-9 and make it 5-7, that can be the difference between winning the pennant. And, everybody, you need to do all the little things right. And they had a stretch. I mean, the sloppy base running, like it cost them. But you can make a case that that's why they weren't in the playoffs.
Well, if you go about the games if we go back and think, okay, they lost by 1 run and got picked off twice, absolutely. Or in that situation, if you'd moved a guy over to third base because then you didn't, so now he's on second base with 1 out, guy hits a fly ball, he might get to third, but now you have 2 outs instead of 1 out. And that's a big deal. Those runs matter. They change the whole complexity and momentum of a game. And so I'd be willing to bet there were probably at least double-digit games they could have won because of that.
Okay. And
I think it's interesting that before 2024, situational hitting was talked about a lot. You remember that in spring training?
Yeah.
It was, we are going to move the runner. We are going to score the runner from third. And they did it a lot. Just because it wasn't talked about publicly doesn't mean it wasn't practiced. But I wonder if they thought, okay, we got it figured out, and didn't do as much in spring training. And then real quick on the bases, I think this is interesting. The Royals only made 39 outs on the bases. That was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, eighth best in baseball, 8th fewest. It would shock people. That does not include being picked off. And they were picked off more than anybody. They were picked off with a caught stealing. So pickoff is when you actually, if you're on first base, you actually get tagged out at first. Right. Pickoff caught stealing is when the pitcher throws to first and you get caught at second. That happened 9 times. They had 30 outs on pickoffs. The Brewers, now to be fair, the Brewers had 28. The Red Sox had 27. The Mariners had 25. They were all playoff teams. So they had something that could cover up. They had something that could cover up for them. That's exactly it. And so you need, the big things are more important, but the little things eke that win total higher and higher. And they didn't do them very well for most of the season. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. We are to number 4 for you, David. And that's what? We already covered that?
Sort of. I'll bring it up again just because the way I put it is I said make a splash trade, but not just to make a splash. Probably with a starter. And so this kind of goes to your starting pitching trade point that, and we've talked about this before too. The roster still doesn't quite fit. They need, I personally think Bobby Witt needs a sidekick, and maybe that's Maikel Garcia. And maybe he proves that this past year was the norm and he's going to be a 5 or 6 win player every year. But you look at the playoff teams, you look at the winning teams, like Shohei has had Freeman and Betts, and this year not as much, but Freeman's been really good this year. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had Springer this year. He had that guy, and he had Bichette in past years. The Rangers had Seager and Semien and all that. The Braves had Acuna and Olsen and Riley, and the Astros Tucker and Alvarez. And I think they need. I love the core. I think Vinnie Pasquantino is a big part of the core of hitting. Clearly, I think Maikel Garcia is a big part of the core of hitting. I think they need another guy, not on Witt's level, because there's 4 guys on Witt's level total, but a step down. That I think Vinny's 2 or 3 steps down. I think Garcia is 2 steps down. I think they need a guy who's one step down and make that trade. And maybe it's a year. We talked about some guys earlier. I'll throw Seiya Suzuki out there. I mentioned him last week. I'll mention him again. Again, I've heard that Tatis might be available. I don't know how the Royals swing it, but I would love it. Somebody who can be near Witt's level to give him that sidekick. And again, they've got what are we, 9 starters to trade from? Figure it out. Figure out how to get that guy.
Yeah. I think that's good. I like that. And if you can do it, you without really, touching anything that you really feel is the top part of your rotation, then great. Right.
Well, and you've also got
Cole Reagans.
Right. 100%. But we haven't talked about this at all. I can't believe we haven't mentioned this. Carter Jensen emerged. Blake Mitchell still exists. You've got a legitimate top 50 prospect to trade, and they should. 100%. If they think Carter Jensen is the guy, don't fart around with Blake Mitchell in right field. Don't fart around with him at third base, or I don't know if they would,
right.
But trade him. Trade him for the impact bat who can help you. I wouldn't trade him for Seiya Suzuki because that's 1 year, but I'm talking if you can go get Wilyer Abreu, if you can go get, I don't even know, a guy who you're going to control for 4 to 6 years, trade Blake Mitchell. Just do it. Use him because that's your farm system is used to make your team better. And sometimes that means that they're on different teams to make your team better.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I love it. All right. Number 5. And by the way, I'm going to point out that with number 5, we're going to get to my number 1 because I realized I skipped by my number 1. And then I was like, okay, but I think you guys are going to have it coming up later. So we have not even gotten to my number 1. I realized that earlier. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm not going to double back. So number 5 on your list. Les, where do you go at number 5?
Figure the stadium situation out. Find a place. Let everybody know what the place is. Get it in motion, whatever you need to do. But I think my reasons are going to be similar to your guys's, but one of the reasons too is that, man, in public, I get asked this question all the time. I don't have that money. I don't know what's going on. I'm not on the inside track. I'm just a fan in this realm. And I love the K. I love where it is. I love the park because I don't want the stadium that I got to play big league baseball in to go away. I mean, I love going out there and seeing that. Man, that was really cool. That was fun. And it's beautiful and majestic, but I also understand that there's business, things change. If it's downtown, if it's out here, if it's over there, okay, whatever it may be, there are smarter people and wealthier people than me that make these decisions, but make a decision. That'd be great.
Yeah. David, same spot at number 5.
Your number 5, my number 5. Yeah. And like you, I mean, probably less than you, but I was at how old was this kid? 3 or 4 year old birthday party. And like 4 of the dads come up to me. Where are the Royals moving? I don't know, man. I have no idea. And that my reason that I want them to pick is I'm tired of being asked about it. I am sick of talking about it. I just want to know. Number 2 reason, I do think there's some value in being able to start projecting revenue moving forward from a future payroll perspective. Because if they go out, it's not going to happen. But let's say they look at it and they go, okay, we're going to have a stadium in 2029. I don't know if that timeline makes sense. So if we want to go get Kyle Tucker, we can actually give him $410 million this year because we know that we're projecting that we're going to make X in 2029 and 2030 and 2031. Have that straight. That then you can know what your future payroll is going to look like. I think that's a really big part of it too. But mostly, I'm just tired of talking about it.
Yeah,
it was number 1 on my list. This is the one that I think is number 1 for the reasons. And listen, we put these in these rankings, and it's like, well, you put it number 1. I mean, if they don't get a hitting coach, none of them. All these things need to be done, right? Yeah. So none of these are like this instead of this. It's do all of these things. All of these things have to get done. So let me be clear about that. But I had it number 1 for what you talked about. I think the city's tired of it. I think you're going to start to get animosity from your fan base. I think it's very important for small market teams to have a love affair between their fan base and the organization. And I think in some ways the organization may not love the fans so much because they didn't vote for their first tax plan or something. They got to get over that. They got to come up with a kick-ass plan that everybody wants to get on board with and everybody wants to vote for. And I think that's important because I don't hear people in Overland Park loving the idea of putting it, at the old Sprint campus, right? But if you can lay out, and so when I say like pick a spot and show the fans an amazing plan, that it's like, you know what? I didn't like the idea of this, but that's awesome. And I'm on board. Like, you need to come to the table with their renderings weren't very good when they put them out on the vote. Nobody was really blown away by the stadium. Where's the crown? One little fountain. What are we doing here? You've had years to know what it is that's going to put a smile on your fans' face, right? You need to put a badass plan together, put that out there, and let everybody go, okay, let's get on board with this. They need to move on. And I'll tell you the other thing you need on the plan is, what the hell are the dimensions of the ballpark going to be? Where's it going to face? Get an idea of how the wind's going to blow. I don't know if you can do that till you build it or not. That may be completely far-fetched. But get the dimensions figured out so your organization can begin to sign and develop players. They are already signing players that will never play in Kauffman Stadium if they get the stadium done on time. There are guys in Latin America that they're signing not knowing, are we going to build a bandbox or are we going to build a recreation of Kauffman Stadium? They got to get off their ass and get this done. That has to happen. And it needs to happen sooner rather than later. And
you're right. Sell the crap out of it.
Yes.
Yeah. I personally, I don't know if we want to get into this, but I like the North Kansas City option. I think it's cool.
I'm down with any of them.
I'm whatever they do, they do it right. I don't care, but I like that. I like that option.
Yeah, I think that could be great. I think it could. It's the one option that gives a view of downtown, right? It wouldn't be out center field. But it would be if you're in
the
outfield.
Washington Square Park would.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
But that's I don't know. I like that one too.
It's on you guys, Royals, to figure out a badass plan. Work with the city, work with the county, work with the states, wherever it's going to be, and give us a great stadium plan. And let's get moving on it and what it is. That was my number one. My number 5 is actually locking up Vinnie Pasquantino. And we touched on this, so I don't need to do much. We touched on it with the last podcast. But I just think kind of with the Salvador Perez thing, if you come in and do your job and do it really well, you'll be rewarded here. And they have Jack Caglione that could go in there. And so that is a bit of an issue. But I'm a little bit nervous about what Jack Caglione is, right? Like, it was a pretty hard fall for Jack Caglione. And if you sign Vinny, I would want him signed. But I'm not putting no trade clauses in there. You can have a limited no trade clause, but I want Vinnie Pasquantino to be rewarded in a Royals uniform and to be here. And I think that is a good statement for the clubhouse. I've got 2 clubhouse statements. That may be way too much in an analytic-driven era, but I think those would be good things for the club, the health of the energy and the vibe. If Salvi and Vinnie Pasquantino are happy campers, great. You've got a great situation. I think the Royals would be in a great spot.
No, if we went to 6.
Yeah, others under consideration. I have down here last. Was there anything you cut off the list that you want to mention?
So this ties into your 5.
Okay.
Hire your hitting coach, and this ties into 2 also.
Yeah.
Hire your hitting coach and figure out, do you think that Jack Caglione is going to figure it out? And if you don't, trade him right now.
Yes.
Like, so it's 6A and 6B. Figure it out. And then if you determine no, if yes, move forward. If no, trade him.
That's
figure
great.
Out. Yeah, I think that to me, and maybe that should have been one of my 5. As I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's actually pretty important. They need to get this right with Caglione. But they need to figure that out. And and that ties into your Pasquantino point too, because if they don't believe that Caglione can do it, trade him. And I wonder a little bit, and as I'm just thinking out loud, does signing Vinnie Pasquantino to an extension that takes him past his arbitration years, does that signal to the rest of the league, hey, we don't buy Jack? Do you have to trade Jack before you extend Vinnie? I don't know if that's true or not, but I wonder if that does play into it.
Yeah. I think, I love that about, like, figure out what you got in Jack, and then maybe move him as a trade chip. Because, like, he had a rough go at the big leagues, but he still has a ton of value. And if you look at it, you go, 4A player, right? Massive 4A player, but, or decent, but we're looking at 210, we're looking at Mark Reynolds without the walks, right? Then, okay, Houston, we got a problem. Like, we need to unload right now. Lesky,
I think that there's big league teams. I don't know who. This is not substantiated by any way, just my brain. But I think there are big league teams out there right now begging the Royals to do what you guys are talking about, to let Jack Caglione to think that, okay, he's just not going to come. So we're going to trade, and they're going to be willing to give something up because that team is probably so confident in their hitting coach and in their hitting philosophy that they think that they can fix him, and then probably will.
Which is, see our original points. That needs to be you, right? That needs to be the Royals. They need to, because that's how they are with their pitching, folks. Hey, real talent. There's spin, there's velo, there's whatever, and we'll give them another weapon and we'll make it work. It needs to be that way with the hitting side as well.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
Great stuff. Listen, you can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors. Folks like Frontier Justice with locations in Lee Summit, KCK, Jenks, Oklahoma. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Find them online at frontier-justice.com. Green Light Dispensary, 15 locations in Missouri. More on the way. Your go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you heard about it right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. And, of course, our friends at Whataburger. They're open 24 hours. What a treat. They saved me the other night. I was coming home late. Whataburger was open, rolled in there, and got a little breakfast. They serve that 11P to 11A. Make sure you check out. They've got a new sandwich that just dropped, the Buffalo Ranch Chicken Strip sandwich. Easy for me to say, better for me to eat. It's at Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. For David Lesky from Inside the Crown, Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.